Good day, everyone. Martin Bell here, and today we'll be discussing fluids, electrolytes, and acid-base balances. Okay, so this would be the part one of our discussion, as we will be dealing with the different normal physiology involving fluids, electrolytes, and acid-base balances. Okay, so for our objectives for today, number one is to discuss the function, distribution, composition, movement, and regulation of body fluids and electrolytes, okay? Including also to discuss the regulation of acid-base balance in the body, including their roles of buffers, the lungs and the kidneys, and of course, identify factors affecting normal body fluids, electrolytes, and acid-base balances. All right, so for today, we'll be discussing starting with body fluid. So body fluids primarily play several crucial functions in the human body. And here are some of the primary roles or key roles that they perform in our body. Number one is, of course, it serves as a transport system and a medium for cellular function. So your body fluids, particularly blood, transport nutrients such as you have glucose, proteins, fats, and vitamins to cell throughout the body, as well as to ensure proper cellular function and energy production. Number two is for temperature regulation. So temperature regulation, that includes sweating, is a process involving the secretion of fluids from your sweat glands onto your skin surface, and this method or this process helps regulate body temperature by dissipating heat evenly through the manner or through the process of evaporation, okay? So additionally, your blood flow to the skin can be adjusted to regulate heat loss or conservation, okay? Next, we have the maintenance of blood volume or blood volume regulation. So blood volume and composition are regulated by body fluids, which play a crucial role in maintaining blood pressure within your ideal range. So fluid balance is highly regulated by mechanisms such as your osmoregulation via your osmoreceptors and your renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. Next, we have a maintenance of pH balance, or pH, or your body fluids, especially your blood, helps maintain your body's pH balance within a very narrow range, which is very essential for cellular function. So buffers in body fluids help prevent excessive acidity or alkalinity, ensuring stable conditions for biochemical reactions. And of course, lastly, to remove waste products. So body fluids help remove waste products such as your carbon dioxide, as what we had discussed last time, and other metabolic byproducts from cells and tissues. These waste products are then eliminated from the body through certain processes like you have urine formation. Okay, so primarily these are the major functions of your body fluid. Your human body is around 50 to 70% water. So by average, you have 60%, okay? So this number is never fixed because the amount of water would vary depending on a lot of factors. We have number one, age. Okay, so as you grow older, your body fluid naturally gradually decreases, usually because of muscle mass. Okay, so your muscle or the bulk of muscle holds water, and this bulk of muscle naturally or gradually decreases with age. This is why infants and elderly patients are more at risk for fluid imbalances. Okay, elderly populations, to pay particular attention, are at most risk for fluid imbalances like fluid volume overload, maybe primarily because of heart failure or renal failure, or on the other side, you have dehydration, maybe from not drinking enough water, usually because they are not thirsty, or they sometimes or most of the time they forget to drink at all. Okay? Next factor we have as an input from what we have discussed from age, we have muscle mass and body fat. Okay, so muscle mass versus body fat. Muscle holds onto water, okay? And obese patients have less fluid than those who are thin because the amount of fat or fat itself repels water. Okay, like imagine you have water and then you put on oil, so the oil typically flows or floats on top of the water. Okay, so a lot of people might think that obese people have more water retention that makes them bloated. Okay, but it's actually the opposite. Obese people have less total body water than a lean person. So for example, if we have two patients who are both weighing 180 pounds, the one patient who's 180 pounds of muscle and another patient who's 180 pounds of fat. Okay, so these obese patients would be at most risk for fluid imbalances like dehydration because of less lean muscle mass and more of having fatty adipose tissue. So it is easier to understand why and go back to factor number one in general, that younger people have higher percentage of body fluids than older people, and it's mainly because of muscle mass that is gradually being lost as people naturally ages. Okay, and then last we have gender. Okay, gender, since men proportionally have a more lean muscle than adipose tissues or your body fat. Okay, in general, men retain more fluids than women because women naturally has more body fat compared to men. Okay, this total body fluid that we have, or what we call the total fluid volume of your body, gets to be distributed in your cell, whether that be inside of the cell or that of outside of the cell, or fluid compartments. Say we have here, as we have mentioned a while ago, 50 to 70% of your total body weight is that of water. By average, that's 60%. Okay? If we consider water content from the inside of the cell, okay, water content from the inside of the cell as one compartment, that is the intracellular fluid, or the ICF, okay? And all of the water outside the cell together forms another compartment, that is your extracellular fluid, or the ECF, okay? So in between these two is what we call a cell membrane. So the cell membrane is what separates the intracellular fluid compartment from the extracellular fluid compartment. Okay. So most of the fluid that is inside the cell is about 2/3 of the total body weight. So the remaining 1/3 is composed of your ECF. Okay. So if we assume that there is an average of 60%, okay, of your body weight, that is the total body fluid volume, we have around 40%, that is the intracellular fluid, and about 20% of the extracellular fluid. So don't forget, 60, 40, 20. Okay. So the ECF is further divided So the ECF, or the extracellular fluid compartment, is further divided into fluid inside of the vessel, or what we call the intravascular fluid. This is sometimes called your plasma, okay? And outside, which is your interstitial fluid, those that surrounds your cell and are sometimes referred to as your third space, okay? So the interstitial fluid is larger, around 3/4 quarters of So the interstitial fluid is larger at around 3/4 of the ECF, and the intravascular fluid, or your plasma, is about 1/4. And between these two is what we call your capillary membrane. Okay, so blood itself can be considered a compartment, okay, on its own, because it has an extracellular fluid, okay, and an intracellular fluid. Okay, so it has your intravascular or your plasma as your extracellular fluid, and that of inside of the red blood cell, which is your intracellular fluid. So the fluid inside the RBC is ICF, and the fluid outside is your intravascular fluid. Okay, and then of course, the fraction of blood that is RBC is called hematocrit. There's also another fluid compartment which is found on the vital organs of our body, which are your heart, your lungs, and your brain. Okay, this compartment is called transcellular fluid compartment and are generally small comparing to the entire content of the extracellular fluid. Okay, you have that which is found on the pericardial cavity, the one that lines the parietal pericardium and the visceral pericardium. So in between that space is filled with your pericardial fluid, normally about 30 ml in amount. Next you have is your pleural fluid. Pleural fluid is found in between the parietal pleura and the visceral pleura on the space called your pleural cavity. This is filled with your pleural fluid and is around 10 to 20 ml in amount. Okay, and then you have your cerebrospinal fluid, which is found in your subarachnoid space, normally about around 140 ml in amount. Okay. Alright, so this next section is a nice to know for your year level. If it happens that the pericardial fluid decreases in amount, it would manifest as a condition called your pericarditis. So pericarditis is the inflammation of the pericardium. This is usually caused by rubbing of the two layers. You have your parietal pericardium and your visceral pericardium. Okay, so it manifests as a sore throat and fever. Okay, now if there is an increase in your pericardial fluid, so a condition called cardiac tamponade is the diagnosis. So it is a medical emergency that takes place when there is an abnormal amount of fluid accumulation in the pericardial sac, making your heart compressed, okay, leading to a decrease in your cardiac output and eventually shock. Okay, so it manifests as a muffled heart tone, hypotension, and your jugular vein distension. So this triad of signs and symptoms is called Beck's triad. Okay. Next we have your pleurisy for a decrease in the amount of pleural fluid. Okay. So pleurisy occurs when your pleural lining, primarily your visceral pleura, parietal pleura, these thin layers of tissue that separates your lung from your chest wall becomes inflamed, okay, causing knife-like stabbing pain. So that's the manifestation. And then you have a pleural effusion for an increase in the accumulation of pleural fluid. It's called a pleural effusion. So again, similar to what happens with cardiac tamponade, pleural effusion restricts the movement or the lung expansion. Okay. And next you have your cerebrospinal fluid, an increase or a decrease in your amount of CSF can both lead to increase in intracranial pressure. So going back with our compartments, okay, so these compartments have water, but they also have solutes, okay. So the cell membrane, okay, is what separates your intracellular fluid from your extracellular fluid. And of course, in between your intravascular fluid and your interstitial fluid is your capillary membrane. Fluid from the plasma gets filtered through the capillary membrane to form your interstitial fluid. So primarily what is in your intravascular fluid is also found on your interstitial fluid. Okay, so the capillary membrane has several pores that let solutes pass through them. Okay, except for protein. Why? Because protein is relatively large. Okay, and do not pass through your capillary membrane, so they stay in your plasma. So the interstitial fluid, of course, has protein, but in very little amount compared to what is found inside the intravascular fluid. Now, all right. So your proteins are negatively charged and cations are positively charged. Okay. And because protein can't pass through the interstitial fluid via your pores because they are too large, the plasma will have smaller cations like that of sodium and smaller anions like that of chloride. So the composition of the two, the interstitial fluid and the intravascular fluid, is quite similar, okay, making the predominant cation in the ECF your sodium, and then you have the predominant anion, which is chloride and bicarbonate. Okay, the cell membrane is selectively permeable. It is freely permeable to water, but impermeable to many solutes. So the composition of the ICF and your ECF is relatively different. Okay, in the ICF, the major cations are your potassium and magnesium versus that of sodium in your ECF. Inside the cells, the anions are your organic phosphate, like your ATP and ADP, and your proteins. So proteins are inside the cell and that of the plasma. Okay, but the interstitial has a very little protein. Potassium is higher inside the cell, while sodium is higher outside. But in both compartments, the concentration of your cations and anions is equal, keeping them overall electrically neutral. Now let's talk about the movement of body fluid. Okay, so there are various mechanisms involved in regulating and maintaining the balance of body fluids within our body. The first movement of body fluid, as we all know, is your diffusion. Okay, so diffusion is the movement of molecules from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. So this process occurs naturally in liquids and gases and doesn't require energy input. It's like when you spray a perfume and eventually you can smell it all throughout the room because the perfume molecules had spread evenly out. Okay, so in the body, diffusion is essential for distributing nutrients like gases as well, and your carbon dioxide and oxygen and other substances across the cell membranes to where they are needed. So it helps to maintain balance and proper functioning within cells and your tissues. Next, we have osmosis. Osmosis, as compared to diffusion, is the movement of water on a semi-permeable membrane from an area of lower solute concentration to an area of higher solute concentration. So unlike diffusion, which involves only the movement of molecules, osmosis specifically refers to water molecules. This movement occurs to equalize the concentration of solutes on both sides of the membrane. So for example, if you have a cell with higher concentration of solutes and it is surrounding environment, water will move into the cell through osmosis to balance the concentration levels. So in the body, this process of osmosis plays a crucial role in maintaining proper hydration levels in your cells and your tissues, as well as in processes like your kidney functions and fluid balance. Next, we have filtration. So filtration is a process by which substances are separated based on a particle size as a fluid passes through a particular barrier or a certain barrier. In biological contexts, such as your kidneys, filtration typically refers to the movement of fluid and particles through a membrane under pressure. Okay, so large particles and the molecules are retained while smaller ones pass through. For example, in the kidneys, blood is filtered to remove waste products and excess substances, which are then excreted in together with your urine. Filtration is essential for maintaining proper balance of substances in the body and for removing your waste products. And you have active transport. Okay. As compared to the three mentioned movement of body fluid, active transport by the term active requires the use of energy. So this is the movement of molecules or ions across a cell membrane against your concentration gradient, requiring the use of energy. Okay. This process requires this energy in the form of your ATP or your adenosine triphosphate. And unlike passive transport processes like your diffusion, osmosis, active transport allows cells to accumulate substances against their concentration gradient, enabling them to maintain specific internal conditions and perform vital function. Okay, so overall, this movement of body fluid helps to control the internal and the external environment to perform specialized functions which is necessary for life processes itself. Okay, now let's talk about how do we measure this, okay, on a day-to-day basis when we talk about caring for our patients in the hospital. Okay, so the total intake and output of water for an average adult could be around 2,500 ml. Okay, so it is important to note that the individual needs may vary, and factors such as your physical activity, temperature, and health conditions can affect water balance. Okay, so for the intake, the average daily water intake for adult is typically around at 1,500 ml. So that's around 60%. So this can be in the form of your beverages like your water, tea, coffee, juice, and milk. Okay. Next, you have those that came from food. That's around 750 ml. So there are water-rich foods like your fruits and your vegetables. That's around 30%. Okay. And water is also produced as a byproduct of various metabolic processes like the one we discussed during the unloading of carbon dioxide from your blood. Okay. So to review, so we have here from carbon dioxide. Now, so for carbon dioxide to diffuse out of the blood into the alveoli, it must be from its bicarbonate form. So you have a bicarbonate ions enter the RBCs and combine with your hydrogen ions to form your carbonic acid. Carbonic acid splits to form water. So this water stays in your intracellular fluid and your carbon dioxide is then produced and it diffuses from your blood to your alveoli. Now, let us talk about the output. So your body loses water from various processes. On an average, adults lose about 1,500 ml of water per day through your urine, so that's around 60%. Around 750 ml through insensible losses, that's from evaporation of heat from your skin and through breathing, that's around 700 ml. Various amounts through sweat and through bowel movement. Okay, so this composes your total body fluid through your intake and your output. Now let's talk about the mechanism that controls your body fluid. So there are various mechanisms involved in regulating and maintaining the balance of body fluids within your human body. First, let's talk about thirst. Okay, thirst is a physiological sensation that prompts us to drink water or fluid when our body is dehydrated. So when the body fluids levels decreases, your osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus detect the increased concentration of solutes in the blood. So this triggers the sensation of thirst, prompting us to drink fluids to replenish loss of water and restore hydration level. So the initial sign that your body is losing water is the sensation of thirst. Okay. Next, you have your antidiuretic hormone. So your ADH, also known as your vasopressin, is a hormone produced by the hypothalamus and is released by your posterior pituitary gland, which is located just on top of every kidney. Okay? It plays a crucial role in regulating water balance by controlling the reabsorption of water in your kidneys. So when blood volume decreases, indicating low fluid levels, the ADH secretion increases. Okay? ADH acts on the kidneys to increase water reabsorption, reducing urine output, and thereby conserving water back to your body. Next, you have your RAAS, or your renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. So the RAAS is a complex hormonal system that regulates blood pressure and fluid balance. It is activated when there is a decrease in blood flow to the kidneys or a decrease in blood volume. In response, the kidneys releases enzyme called renin, which initiates a series of reactions leading to the production of angiotensin II. Angiotensin II causes vasoconstriction, stimulating the release of your aldosterone from your adrenal glands. So this aldosterone acts on the kidneys to increase sodium reabsorption. Later you'll know what's the purpose of sodium, okay? Which leads to an increase in water reabsorption and helps restore blood volume and of course blood pressure. Next you have your vasoreceptors and your osmoreceptors. I think I had mentioned already osmoreceptors on the thirst mechanism. Now let's talk about baroreceptors. These are specialized sensory receptors located in your blood vessel, particularly in the walls of your carotid sinus and your aortic arc. They detect changes in blood pressure and send signals to the brainstem to regulate blood pressure and of course fluid balance. When blood pressure decreases, baroreceptor signals your sympathetic nervous system to increase your heart rate. Okay? Vasoconstriction and secretions of hormones like your ADH and your aldosterone, which overall collectively works to restore blood pressure and your fluid balance. Okay? And of course, you have your atrial natriuretic hormone or your NAH. ANH is a hormone released by the atria of the heart in response to increased blood volume and pressure. It acts to reduce blood volume and pressure by promoting sodium and water excretion in the kidneys, inhibiting the release of renin and aldosterone, causing the inverse of their effect, vasodilation of your blood vessel. So your ANH helps regulate fluid balance and blood pressure by counteracting the actions of the RAAS. Okay? And overall, these are the mechanisms that controls your body fluids. Okay. So now let us talk about your electrolytes. Okay. Electrolytes primarily are important and crucial to perform daily functions, primarily of conducting electricity, and are present in all body fluid compartments. Okay. Number one purpose or function of your electrolytes is for maintaining fluid balance. Electrolytes help regulate the distribution of water throughout the body's fluid compartments. Primarily, they influence osmosis, which is, of course, the movement of water across cell membranes, primarily to maintain hydration status of a patient. Next, you have your acid-base regulation. So they primarily are contributing to the acid-base regulation, primarily your bicarbonate and your phosphate and purines help regulate your body's pH levels, which is essential for all the metabolic processes to function properly. And maintaining acid-base balance is crucial for
overall physiological stability of a person's body. Okay. Next, you have facilitating enzyme reactions. Many enzymes require specific electrolytes as your cofactors to function properly. One good example here is your calcium. So these electrolytes helps the enzymes catalyze biochemical reactions necessary for metabolism, energy functions or production, and other cellular processes. Okay? And of course, you have neuromuscular reactions. So transmitting neuromuscular reactions for the electrolytes like your sodium, calcium, potassium, and magnesium are vital in order to generate this important transmission of electrical impulses in your nerve cells and your muscle cells. And they maintain membrane potential necessary for nerve impulse conduction and muscle contraction. So these are the functions of your electrolytes. To start with, we have here sodium. Sodium levels in the body are highly regulated through various mechanisms to maintain proper fluid balance, blood pressure, and nerve function. Your kidneys play a key role in regulating sodium levels by adjusting its excretion in response to changes in blood pressure and volume. Additionally, hormonal system like your renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system and your atrial natriuretic peptide also influence sodium excretion and retention. So our normal values for sodium, you have 135 to 145 milliequivalents per liter. So what's the purpose of sodium? Sodium is involved in nerve impulse transmission and muscle contraction, making it essential for proper nerve function and muscle activity. Sodium is an essential electrolyte that plays a crucial role in maintaining fluid balance and osmotic pressures within cells and your tissue. Additionally, it helps regulate blood pressure by influencing blood volume through its effects on water retention and excretion. Food sources, we have here, of course, table salt or your sodium chloride is the most common dietary source of sodium. It is added to many processed and packed foods as well as used in cooking and for seasoning. Processed and packed foods such as your canned soups, processed meats like your bacon, ham, sausages, snack foods like your chips and your pretzels, and fast food are often high in sodium. So anything that is dried, canned, brined, or pickled are high in sodium food sources. So, to make it easier for everyone to remember your sodium, Na, think your brain. Okay? Because any person who is having problem with the nerve impulse would initially manifest as a change in the level of your consciousness. Okay, so don't forget, Na, think brain. And sodium has letter N and your brain has letter N. Okay. Next we have here your potassium. Potassium is the kidneys play a crucial role in potassium. The kidneys play a crucial role in potassium regulation by excreting your excess potassium in the urine or reabsorbing it is needed. Now let us proceed with your potassium. Potassium primarily is regulated by your kidneys. Kidneys play a crucial role in regulation of your potassium by excreting excess of it in your urine or reabsorbing it as needed to maintain balance. Hormonal systems like your aldosterone, insulin, and catecholamine also influence potassium levels by affecting its uptake and excretion by the cell. Your normal values for your potassium is 3.5 to 5 milliequivalents per liter. The function of potassium is vital and essential for numerous physiological processes in the body. Primarily, potassium is critical for the contraction of your heart muscles, which regulates your heartbeat. Important for proper nerve function and muscle contraction, and plays a crucial role in maintaining fluid balance within your cells and tissues, helping to regulate cell volume and osmotic pressure. It also helps to regulate your blood pressure by counteracting the effects of sodium and promoting vasodilation of your blood vessels. Common food sources we have here, pabaos, okay? So don't forget this mnemonic, pabaos. P for potato, A for apple, or avocado, or your apricot, okay? So international nursing examinations love to test you with the different food sources of potassium, and avocado and apple are mostly the common answers for this type of questions. Then you have here banana, orange, watermelon, and strawberry. Another one for letter S is your spinach. Okay, so these are your potassium-rich foods. Okay, so to make it easier for you to remember, P, potassium, has another P, it pumps the heart. So potassium is essential for the contraction or the pumping mechanism of your heart. Next we have calcium. Calcium levels in your body is highly regulated by various physiological functions including bone health, muscle contraction, nerve transmission, and blood clotting. So the regulation of calcium levels involves complex interaction between your hormones including your parathyroid hormone, calcitonin, and your vitamin D. Your normal values for your calcium, we have your 8.5 to 10.1 milligram per deciliter. Other sources says it's 9 to 11. That's why other resource manuals or resource book for electrolytes says the best way for you to remember calcium level is 911 or your emergency contact number. So you dial 911. So that's 9 to 11 milligram per deciliter. Okay, functions. Let's talk about the function of your calcium. Calcium is vital and plays numerous critical roles in your body. Number one, it is essential for forming and maintaining strong bones and teeth. Okay, helping to support your skeletal structure and integrity. Calcium is also involved in contraction and relaxation of your muscles, including that of your heart muscle contraction, which regulates your heartbeat, and, of course, the contractions of your skeletal muscles. It also plays a key role in nerve transmission as a signaling molecule that helps regulate various cellular processes. Calcium is also involved in blood clotting, okay, which contributes to forming a stable blood clot in response to injury and preventing excessive bleeding. Okay, food sources for your calcium. We have DGF, for you to easily remember. Anything that is dairy-based, like your milk and your yogurt. Green leafy vegetables, you have broccoli, okra, and your bok choy. And fish, primarily you have here your sardines and your salmons. So to make it easier for you to remember the functions of your calcium, we have here C for calcium. Calcium creates bones, because calcium is necessary for the formation of your bones and your teeth. Another one, calcium, letter C, for cardiac contraction. Calcium for cardiac contraction. So these are the two essential roles of your calcium or main function of your calcium to your body, for creating bones and for cardiac contraction. Next, we have your magnesium. Magnesium Magnesium plays a significant role in various processes in our body, and your kidneys is primarily the main organ responsible for regulation your magnesium level in your body by excreting or reabsorbing it as needed to maintain balance. Hormonal factors as your parathyroid hormone and your vitamin D also influence magnesium levels by affecting its absorption and excretion. Your normal values for magnesium is 1.5 to 2.5 milliequivalents per deciliter. So what's the function of magnesium? So primarily, it is essential as a cofactor for hundreds of enzymatic reactions in your body, primarily in energy metabolism, including producing and utilizing your adenosine triphosphate, the body's primary energy currency, through operating your sodium and potassium pump. Magnesium is also involved in nerve transmission and muscle contraction, helping to regulate neuromuscular function and for maintaining your muscle tone. So if calcium is needed for muscle contraction, your magnesium relaxes your muscle contraction. Okay. Food sources for your magnesium involves those which are seeds based. You have sunflower, almonds, and your pumpkin. Those are which are legumes. You have your beans, chickpeas, and your lentils. Veggies like your spinach and kale. And you have your grains or your whole grains, which includes your brown rice, quinoa, and your oats. So these are high magnesium food sources. So to make it easier for you to understand and remember magnesium, magnesium has letter M. Magnesium manages your muscle. Okay? Magnesium manages your muscles because they are responsible for the relaxation of your muscles. Next, we have your phosphate. Okay, phosphate has a normal value of 2.5 to 4.5 milligram per deciliter. So phosphate levels in the body is regulated by interactions between hormones like your parathyroid hormone, calcitriol, and fibroblast growth factor. So the kidneys also play a significant role in phosphate regulation by reabsorbing or excreting phosphate as needed to maintain balance. So the essential function of your phosphate is primarily for bone and teeth mineralization or formation, where it helps to provide strength and rigidity to your skeletal muscles. Phosphate also plays a crucial role in energy metabolism as a component of your ATP. ATP hydrolysis releases energy for cellular processes. Okay. Phosphate is also involved in cellular signaling and regulation, serving as a critical component of your nucleic acid, primarily that of your DNA and your RNA, and various phosphorylated molecules that participate in signal transduction pathways. Food sources for your phosphate generally are those which are veggies like that of your spinach, squash, and okra. For meats, you have fish, beef, turkey, and chicken. We have your legumes, nuts, milk, and grains. Okay, so for you to remember phosphate or phosphorus has perfect teeth. Okay, so for phosphorus, think perfect teeth because phosphate is necessary for bone and teeth formation. Next, you have your chloride. Chloride has a normal value of 95 to 108 milliequivalents per deciliter. The kidneys play also a big role in chloride regulation by reabsorbing or excreting it as needed to maintain balance. Chloride levels are also influenced by factors such as dehydration status, dietary intake, and certain medical conditions. Okay. Chloride helps maintain proper fluid balance by osmotically balancing sodium and other ions across cell membrane. The chloride is an important component of your hydrochloric acid in the stomach, which is essential for the digestion and breakdown of food. It is also involved in the transport of carbon dioxide as bicarbonate in the blood and plays a role in maintaining the acid-base balance. So for chloride has letter C, carries fluid in the cell. Chloride carries fluid in the cell. Okay. Your body works diligently to maintain a delicate balance between acids and bases. And this equilibrium is monitored through your blood pH level. Okay, so typically, a normal pH falls within the range of 7.35 to 7.45. A pH lower than 7.35 indicates acidity, leading to a state of acidosis. Conversely, a pH larger than 7.45 indicates alkalinity, resulting in a state called alkalosis. While this may seem straightforward, the complexity arises from the pivotal players involved in maintaining this balance. One of these key players is your bicarbonate. Okay? Bicarbonate or your HCO3, okay, serves as our primary base. Bicarb assists in achieving alkalosis. And your normal values for your bicarb is 22 to 26 milliequivalents per liter. Conversely, carbon dioxide acts as our primary acid, okay, contributing to acidotic states. An excess in your carbon dioxide leads to acidosis. So to simplify, carbon dioxide can be likened to be carbonic acid. Okay? So additionally, hydrogen ion from another form of acid found in the stomach and urine, high levels of hydrogen ion also results in acidosis. So to recall, your hydrogen ions signify high acidity. Okay? Elevated levels of hydrogen ions and carbon dioxide, hence it's called carbon diacid. And conversely, for alkalosis, think of bicarb or bi-carb, bicarb. Okay? So the lungs and your kidneys play significant roles in regulating these acid-base balances. The lungs control your carbon dioxide levels or CO2 through respiration and expelling excess carbon dioxide from the body. So a reduced respiratory rate results in increased retention of your carbon dioxide, leading to acidosis. And conversely, hyperventilation, okay, decreases your carbon dioxide levels, promoting alkalosis. On the other hand, the kidneys manage your hydrogen ions and bicarb levels. They excrete excess acid into urine while retaining bicarb, aiding in maintaining balance. If there is an alkalosis overload, the kidneys works to restore equilibrium by excreting more bicarb and retaining more hydrogen ion, thereby increasing acidity levels. So another component that we usually see on your arterial blood gases as a laboratory test to check for your blood pH is your partial pressure of oxygen, which is 35 to 45 millimeter mercury, and so now to give you an idea, what are the other laboratory values that you see when you have your ABG laboratory results? So it includes, you have here the partial pressure of your oxygen, which is ranging from 80 to 100 millimeter mercury, and of course your oxygen saturation, ranging from 95 to 100%. Okay. Alright, so let us now try to make it easier for you to remember this important and dreaded concept of ABG interpretation or reading, starting with what is found on the left side, which is your pH. So remember, pH is on top or is primary. So pH starts with letter P. Think of it as primary, or the first thing we have to consider. Next, it is followed by your partial pressure of your carbon dioxide. So your carbon dioxide here has number 2. So don't forget and always remember, your partial carbon dioxide is the next value that you have to consider. And of course, you have your bicarbonate. Bicarbonate has a number 3 here. So bicarbonate is the last value that you have to consider, all right, when you would want to interpret your ABGs. Okay. Now let us proceed with your key numbers. Okay, for pH we have 7.35 to 7.45. Okay. So I think it wouldn't be hard for you to remember the partial pressure of your carbon dioxide. So you just have to bring down 35 and 45 from your pH values. Okay. And don't forget that your carbon dioxide is regulated by your lungs. Okay. Next, we have for your bicarbonate, we have a normal value of 22 to 26. Okay. And don't forget that your bicarbonate is regulated by your kidneys. Okay. Now, label. Let us now label them as ABA. Okay. ABA on the left side and BAB on the right side. So don't forget, A stands for acid or acidic or acidosis, and then B stands for basic, which is your alkaline or alkalosis. Okay. So we have here your mnemonic ABA and BAB. Okay, so instead of memorizing respiratory opposite and metabolic equal, okay, so we use this ABA and BAB to remember. A here stands for acidosis. So if you have a pH below 7.35, that is acidosis. And if you have a pH above 7.45, that is considered alkalosis. Okay. Now, if you have a carbon dioxide, a partial pressure of your carbon dioxide that is below 35, that is alkalosis. Okay. And if you have your partial pressure of your carbon dioxide, which is above 45, then that is acidosis. Okay. And then you have bicarbonate. If the bicarbonate is below 22, then that means you are having acidosis. And if your bicarbonate is above 26, then you are having alkalosis. Okay. So do not forget and try to write this down and remember the positions of the different letters and your normal values, and the order of the arrangement of your pH, your carbon dioxide second, and third, your bicarbonate. Okay. So let us now learn how to write or to diagnose your ABGs based on these 3 basic steps. Okay. So this can be summarized into 3 basic steps, and when I try to write this out, I try to make it look like I am writing my full name. Okay. For step number 1, check your pH. Okay. When we check for your pH, this would give you 2 possible answers. You have acidosis and your alkalosis. So your pH would now become your surname. Okay. Next, you have match the pH with its partner. Okay. So if it is having alkalosis, so you look for a partner which is also having an alkalosis. Okay. And that will be the middle name, and it would give you only 2 options. You have here respiratory or metabolic. Respiratory or metabolic. So that would be your middle name. Okay. And step 3, check for compensation. When we check for compensation, we'll look for the other organ and take into consideration their possible movement. Okay? And your step number 3 would give you the first name of the... Okay, so this would give you your first name, and you would be given 3 possible options to choose from. We have here fully compensated, uncompensated, and partially compensated. Okay, so this is how you write your ABG results. Okay, so for the surname, it would give you acidosis or alkalosis. That's for step 1. Step 2, you have here the middle name. You check for the partner of your pH. Is it respiratory or metabolic by nature? And for the first name, you check for compensation. Is it fully compensated, partially compensated, or uncompensated? Okay. So let us set up our chart as this, just like our previous slide. Say, for example, we have here our given values. Okay. So the blood pH is 7.49. Your partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 33. And your bicarbonate is 23. Okay. So let us now start interpreting with the first step. Okay. So let us now focus on the pH. Okay. So what is our pH in our given value? So we have 7.49. 7.49. Okay. So now let us look at the position of 7.49 at the pH with our chart. Okay. So we have here 7.45. So technically speaking, this is somewhat here. Okay, so we have here 7.49. Okay, and remember, if that is letter B, okay, if that is letter B, we are on the alkalosis side. If that is letter A, we are on the acidotic side. Now, so we have the example 7.49, which signals or signifies that the patient is on the alkalotic state. Okay. So we have here our surname. For the pH, we have alkalosis. Okay, next. All right, step number 2. So step number 2, match the pH with its partner. Okay, so if we have here 7.49 for our pH, let's take a look at our values. Okay, what is the value given for your partial carbon dioxide? We have here 33. 33, and the value for your bicarbonate is 23. Okay, so we have here 23. Now let us take a look which is the matching partner of your pH. So we move our partial carbon dioxide here because the given is 33. So this is somewhere between on the left side of our chart. So we have here 33. So 33. And your bicarbonate is somewhat here at basically the normal side of your chart. So we have here 22. And of course, we have here 23 after. Okay. Now, if we have here now a matching, okay, we have here B and another B, okay? And of course, our bicarbonate is placed at the normal side. So we have here both letter B, then of course, our middle name is respiratory in nature, okay? Respiratory in nature because the partner of your pH that matches the level of acidity or alkalinity of the pH is on your carbon dioxide or the partial pressure of your carbon dioxide. Hence, this is respiratory in nature. Okay, next. Step number 3. Step number 3. Let us take a look at our compensation. Let us check for the amount of compensation that we have given the values 7.49, 33, and 23. Okay, so let's look for compensation. Now, there are different parameters to check if there is compensation. Okay, if your pH is normal, then that is considered to be full compensated or full compensation. But in our case, the pH is not normal. Okay. Now, if the pH is abnormal, which is the case of our given example here, and the other parameter is normal, that is uncompensated. Okay. If the pH is abnormal and the other parameter is normal, then this is uncompensated. So we have here the pH is not normal, okay? And the matching is your carbon dioxide, which is respiratory in nature. So the other parameter that we are trying to look is our bicarbonate, okay? And it says here on our example that the bicarbonate is on normal level. So we have here uncompensated. Okay, but there is another parameter. Okay, if all values are abnormal, then that is partially compensated. So again, going back with our chart, we have here a normal bicarbonate. So that is why our first name, okay, is uncompensated. So we have here the diagnosis for this given set of your ABGs is uncompensated respiratory alkalosis. Again, uncompensated respiratory alkalosis. Alright, so let us have another example here. 7.24 for our pH, 38 for our partial carbon dioxide, and 17 for our bicarbonate. Okay, so again, step 1, we look for the surname. Let us check for our pH. And what is the situation of our pH here? We have 7.24. So we try to move our chart. We have here 7.24 moves letter A to the left side. Okay, so if we move letter A to the left side, that means we are having acidosis. Okay, acidosis. Our pH is having acidosis. Next, let us take into consideration our matching pH with its particular partner. So look into your partial carbon dioxide. We have here 38 and we have here bicarbonate as 17. So we are now trying to look for the middle name. Okay, so we have two options, whether that be respiratory or metabolic. Okay, so if we plot our carbon dioxide, we have here 38. So this is located somewhere here, okay, in our chart. Next, we have 17 for our bicarbonate. So let us look at 17 for our bicarbonate, and that is somewhat placed here. Okay, so we have here 17. So we have here 17. We try to move letter A on our bicarbonate to the left side. So I think we now have found our match. So we have here A for your pH, acidotic state, and your bicarbonate is also on your acidotic state. And that is why this would give us as a result as our middle name of metabolic. Okay, so you have here metabolic acidosis. Okay, now let us try to look into the compensation. Okay, so let us look at the compensation. So we have here our little código. Okay, let us look if the pH is normal. Is it yes or a no? I think that is a no. Okay, if the pH is abnormal, which is the case of our example here, and the other parameter is normal, so we have here uncompensated. Okay, if we look at the different parameters, okay, so we have here bicarbonate. So we already have metabolic acidosis, which is already the partner for our pH for this example. So the other parameter here that we are trying to look at is our partial carbon dioxide. And our partial carbon dioxide says that the value is 38. And we try to decipher. So the 38 is in between our green label or green bar here, which tells us that our partial carbon dioxide or the other parameter is normal. And we have there the diagnosis for that is you have uncompensated. So we have here uncompensated metabolic acidosis. Okay, so I think we're done now with our discussion on the normal side of your fluids, electrolytes, and acid-base balance. Okay, now I have here different set of examples, and I would want that everyone be challenged to diagnose the different ABGs. Okay, interpret the different ABGs as given. For example, as we have here, as I flash it on your screen. Okay. So try to write the first name, the middle name, and the surname for these values. Another one, we have here, this is our second example. Okay, let's try to do a screenshot on that. Okay. Next we have these values. All right. And lastly, we have here this set of values. Okay. So this will be our assignment. No? Try to answer your ABGs and I'll tell you how you would submit your answers for this. Okay, so I think that would be all for our discussions for the normal side of your fluids, electrolyte, and acid-base balances.